Hi all, nice to see you again. Again, we are going to learn one more important point from the lesson Life Process in Living Organisms Part 2 belongs to Standard 10. Okay, so today we are going to learn the sexual reproduction in plants. See, one question is there, question number 11. Explain sexual reproduction in plants. We will see the details of the process here in this video. So this is a diagram of flower. We know that flower is a structural unit of sexual reproduction in plants. The same diagram we have already seen in my last video, right? If we see the parts of flower, see this is androecium, okay? Androecium is male sexual organs in plant. It is also called as stamen, right? This is gynoecium. Gynoecium means female sexual reproductory part in flower, which is also called as carpel. So stamen and carpel are the important parts of flower which actually involves in the reproduction in flower. That's why both together they are called as essential whorls. Whorls means parts of the flower. Essential whorls of the flower, right? The remaining two parts, that is corolla and calyx, they are directly does not involve in the reproduction process. That's why they are called as accessory whorls. Okay, so these two are essential whorls, these two are accessory whorls from the flower. Many flowers they do not have this pedicel part. Okay, such a flower are called as sessile flower, means the flower which don't have pedicel in their structure is called as sessile, and the flower which have this structure in their floral part is called as pedicellate flower. Okay, so two types of flowers are there, pedicellate flower and sessile flower. See in the diagram, the both male and female reproductive organ is present in the same flower. But sometimes it may happen that the flower only contain the male reproductive organ, it does not contain the female. Or sometimes it may happen that it contains only female reproductive organ, but in that case male reproductive organ does not contain. Okay, in that case when plants contain only one of the reproductive organ on the flower, it is called as unisexual flower. Okay, the flower is called as unisexual flower. Okay, the diagram that I have shown here is a bisexual flower, that is both stamen and carpels are present on the same flower. It's called as bisexual flower. And what is unisexual flower? Unisexual flower means if any one of the essential floral whorls is present on the flower is called as unisexual flower. Let's discuss the essential whorls first. Okay, in that let's discuss androecium. Androecium is also called as stamen. We have already discussed. Okay, stamen contains two important parts, that is anther and filament. Okay, this is one androecium or one stamen. Such a many stamens are present together. Okay, if you see carefully, the androecium has the upper part called as anther. It produces pollen grains. Okay, pollen grains are the male reproductive gamete which actually has the nucleus which is to be fused with female nucleus. Okay, so pollen grains actually goes to the female reproductive system and then it unite with the female nucleus, right? So many pollen grains are formed in the one stamen. Let's see about gynoecium, that is female reproductive organ. So gynoecium has three essential whorls, that is stigma, style and ovary. Okay, what is the role of stigma? Stigma actually captures the pollen grain, means stigma provide a space to settle the pollen grains on itself. Stigma produce a sticky substances during the pollen grain settles over it. Okay, so this is the role of stigma. So what is the role of style? style carries the pollen nucleus towards this ovary. Okay, so this is the connecting part between stigma and ovary, right? The ovary contains many or one or many ovules. Okay, and in one of the ovule, the female egg cell is present, to which the pollen nucleus reaches through style. Let's see process in detail. This is the diagram of actual process of sexual reproduction in plants. If you see a diagram, this is a stamen. Stamen means male reproductive part from flower. It contains filaments, anther. See, from the anther, one pollen grain is coming out. Actually, there are many pollen grain are coming out when the anther burst, but here I have drawn only one pollen grain. Okay, this pollen grain is now going to shift to the stigma part. Okay, and as I told, the stigma gets sticky when the pollen grain approaches to it. This process of transfer of pollen grain to stigma is called as pollination. Okay, this pollen grain does not come itself towards the stigma. Okay, some agents are responsible for transfer of pollen grain to stigma. So which are those agents? Some are the biotic agents, and biotic agent means living agents. They include some insects, some animals. Unknowingly, some insects sit on they have pollen grain stick to their feet and they sit on the stigma, right? And unknowingly they transfer the pollen grain to the stigma, right? So these are the biotic agents. So some abiotic agents are also responsible for the pollination, such as wind is there, water is there. Due to wind, the pollen grain flows to stigma, right? So in this way, pollination is done by biotic factors and abiotic factors. When the pollination process, if it is done in the flowers which are born on the same plant or from the same flower, if the process is done, it is called as self-pollination. That means if the anther from the same flower, it gives its pollen grain to the stigma from the same flower, it is also called as self-pollination. If the anther from the different flower shift its pollen grain to the stigma from the another flower, but both the flowers belongs to same plant, then also it is called as self-pollination. Okay. So one more type is there of pollination, it is cross-pollination. When the pollen grain born on the flower which is belongs to different plant and the androecium belongs to different plant, if they get unite, then in that process, the process of pollination is called as cross-pollination. Okay. In that case, it becomes a cross-pollination. The flowers which are born on different plants, if the pollination is done in between them, then it is called as cross-pollination. Let's see how exactly the process occurs. Once the pollen grain settled on the stigma, it starts to germinate. It starts to produce a pollen tube inside the style, right? See, this pollen tube extend to one of the ovule. As I told, there are many ovules inside the ovary. Okay, this pollen tube reaches to one of the ovule from the ovary. Okay, once it reached to one of the ovule, what happened? The two pollen nuclei, it start to travel through that tube and try to reach to the ovule. Okay, say this ovule I have zoomed out here. Okay, if you see the diagram of one ovule properly, you will come to know that in the ovule, one egg cell with one single nucleus is present and two polar nuclei are present, right? So one of the sperm cell, or we can say male gamete, unite with the egg cell and the other nucleus unite with the polar nuclei. Okay, once the male gamete reaches to the ovule, or both the male gametes, they unite with the female nucleus. Let's see the process in detail. See, this is zoomed out ovule structure. Okay, see here already the male gamete entered into the ovule. blue colored is the male nuclei, red color is of here, red color is of female nuclei, right? One of the male gamete fused with egg nucleus and the other male gamete fused with polar nuclei, right? This egg nucleus along with the male gamete, it forms a zygote. Now this zygote is, it will possess the ability to give a birth to a new plant. Okay, this zygote will have the ability to convert into a new plant. Okay, so what is the use of this polar nuclei and sperm nuclei combination? So this will convert into the endosperm. Okay, see the word endosperm. What is the role of endosperm? It provide all the nourishment which is required for the growing zygote or growing embryo inside this ovule. Okay, so this ovule is now going to convert itself into a seed. Okay, this ovule now will get convert itself into seed. In the seed, this zygote will form embryo. This endosperm will nourishes that embryo. Understand? And the ovary which we have seen will get converted into fruit. See, one more thing it is remaining to tell. One of the male gamete combined with two polar nucleus. Okay, that's why one nuclei combine here with the two nucleus. So, hence this process is called as double fertilization. Okay, so this is very important definition. So here two fertilization takes place. One fertilization is with male gamete with female gamete. The second fertilization is with male gamete with two polar nuclei, and this is also a double fertilization. Okay, in this way the process of sexual reproduction in plants takes place. Now this seed will, when germinate into the soil, when the all process completed and seed will get germinate into the soil, it forms a new plant. Understand? In this way the new generation will start, and the process of formation of new generation here completed. So students, in this way the process of sexual reproduction in plants is over. So to get the answers of remaining questions, you have to stay tuned with me. Till then students, bye.